Today we're going to be working with the slope of a line. The slope is a rate of change between any 2 points on a given line. It is the measure of the steepness of a line. So slope is often used like in construction, like a roof of a house would be the slope. And they also do that maybe with the slope of cement because you don't want it to slope too much. You also don't want it to slope too little because you want water to run away from certain areas. There's a couple different ways that you can find the slope of a line. One of them would be the rise over the run. So if you have a picture like I have here, you can count the rise, the number of boxes high between the 2 points, and then you can count the run. So here, if I were to look at this picture, my slope would be, well, the rise was 3 and the run was 2, so it would be 3 over 2. In slope, we leave it as an improper fraction. We do not go through and change it to a mixed number. Okay. Another thing that we'll use later in this lesson on day 2 is we'll work with changing when they just give us 2 sets of points and then finding the slope of line based off of 2 points without a picture. Okay, so before we get too far into this, we do need to review from last year what a positive slope looks like versus a negative. A positive slope is going to be when your line, so you identify if it's positive or negative by looking at the line, just the line itself. And if it's going from left to right in an upward fashion, like this blue line, that would be considered a positive. I oftentimes think of a bank account. Like if this was money and you were increasing in money going up, that's a good thing, okay? A negative slope would be when your line is going downward from left to right. Same thing, if you're thinking of money, well, that's a bad thing if you start out with a lot of money and now you have very little money. That would be a negative thing. So if your line is going in that manner, then it would be a negative slope, okay? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to look through some different samples. So the first step is when I look at the slope of this line, I want to identify if it's a positive or a negative slope. So if I just look at the line from left to right, it's going upward. Well, that's a positive thing. So I know it's going to be a positive slope, okay? Then I'm going to go ahead and pick any 2 numbers. So for this example, I'm going to go ahead and just test out a couple different ones to see if I get the same slope on each between no matter what 2 points I pick. Now, the key thing to remember is when you guys get to start picking points, you need to make sure that you pick points that fall on a corner of our graph. So for example, if I picked that one and this one, now the points were already kind of identified for me. You just need to make sure that you're not picking something like, for example, this yellow dot falls right in the middle of a box. You know, I don't know if that's -1.5 or -1 2/3. So you need to make sure that you're picking where it falls right directly on a corner of your graph. Okay, so if I pick these 2 points here, I'm going to do the rise over the run. So the rise was 1, 2 boxes, so that's my top number. Over the run was 1, 2, 3 boxes over to get to the other number. So I get a positive 2/3 for my slope. Let's go ahead and pick 2 other ones. Let's say I didn't pick those 2. Let's say I just picked the 2 pink ones. So this point and this point, which are now blue. Okay, if I were to do the rise over run, now those are pretty far apart. So the key thing is you should probably try and pick the ones that are closest together. But let's say I didn't notice that there were 2 points that were closer together. Can I still get the same answer? Well, we'll go ahead and check it. So my rise, there's my rise. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My run to get over to that other dot was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Does 6 over 9 reduce down to 2/3? Yeah, because 3 goes into each of those. So no matter what 2 points I pick, you're still going to get the same slope. Even if I picked these 2, this one and this one here. Okay, if I do the rise on that, well, it would be the rise, 1, 2, 3, 4. The run, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4 over 6 still reduces down to 2/3. So as long as you're picking points that are on corners, it doesn't matter what 2 points you pick. You're still going to get the same slope of a line, okay? So let's go ahead and practice some of these. Oops. Okay, so if I go ahead and pull this one out. Okay, so I've identified 2 points on there for you, and I'll enlarge this just a little bit. So we're gonna go ahead and do the rise and the run. So my first question is this a positive or a negative slope? So it's going downward from left to right. Ugh, that's a bad thing if it was money. So it's a negative. And then we're gonna go ahead and do our rise and a run. Now I picked 2 points. Maybe they're not 2 points that are closest, but I went ahead and just picked 2 points on here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the rise and the run. So I'm gonna rise. So I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes. And then my run, and my board's slightly off, so I apologize that that looks above the line. So I had, what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 was my rise. Ooh, that doesn't stand out very well. And my run is 2 boxes. So 6 over 2 could be reduced down to 3 over 1. So negative 3 over 1, which when you guys work with slope, you're gonna see it as negative 3. Okay? And you just have to be comfortable with interchanging between negative, like a number over 1 and the whole number itself. So obviously there were 2 points that were actually closer than the 2 that were there, and it looks like it's right here. Okay? All right, so let's try another one. Okay, so here I didn't pick the points. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick them for you, just so that you don't have to go through and, draw it on your whiteboard. So I'm gonna pick 2 points, and I'm seeing a corner point here and a corner point here. So I want you to go ahead and do the rise over the run of that. So rise over run. Okay, and then whether it's positive or negative. So you should end up with the rise is 1 over, so we went up 1 and over 2 boxes, so 1/2. And that's positive because that blue line is going upward from left to right. Okay, so I'm gonna give you another one. And this time I want you to pause the video after I mark the 2 points. And as you're working on these on your own, you're gonna have to pick those 2 points. So if I pick 2 points, I'm seeing 1 right here on the corner. And then I'm just gonna follow it down until I see it cross another corner. Ooh, here's the next one. Okay, so go ahead and work your way through rise over run on that one and whether it's positive or negative. So you can go ahead and pause your video and then check back in just a minute to see if your answer is correct. You should have gotten negative 8/5, and you would leave that as negative 8 over 5. You would not change that. Okay, it's negative because the blue line is going downward from left to right. Okay, there's a couple special lines that sometimes show up where they may ask you the type of line. And this would be one example where you've got a line that's going perfectly vertical. There is no slope to that. There's a rise, but there is no run. So when you come across something like this, that is known as an unidentified slope. Okay. I just remember that I could make a U out of that or a no slope out of that. Okay. So unidentified or no slope could also be used. And you won't come across these very often, but every now and then you may come across it maybe on an assessment or a worksheet or something like that. Here's the other one. When you end up with something where you have a perfectly horizontal line. And when you come across something like that, the way that I remember what it's called is I can make a Z out of this, and that would be called a line of 0. So when you have no slope at all, there's no rise on it, there's only a run, that is a slope of 0. So I just remember I can make the letter Z out of it. So you have unidentified when it's going straight up and down, or a no slope. And then you have a slope of 0 when it goes straight across.